Question number 4, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question's to the Minister of Health. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, "It's important people can access the appropriate mental health and addiction services that they need," end quote?
Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Yes, and that is why this government has increased mental health and addiction services funding from $1.1 billion to $1.4 billion. That includes $64 million as part of the Prime Minister's Youth Mental Health Project and an extra $24 million in Budget 2016 for increased access to mental health services. That includes support for early access to services via a telephone triage service. Working in mental health is always a very challenging job, and I value the professionalism and dedication of our mental health workforce.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, and the Honourable Annette King.
Well, in light of that answer, how does he account for Waikato DHB reporting on the 24th of August, quote, "extreme risk to patient safety because of the number of patients needing treatment had led to, quote, excessive wait times for emergency departments and delay with assessment and treatment," end quote?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
So as the member knows, those comments were made following a very serious incident, and unfortunately it was a tragedy in the Waikato. As a result, the Director of Mental Health went there, he undertook an investigation, he made a series of recommendations which have been acted on.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Annette King.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to table a memorandum from the board dated the 24th of August, well after the event, and public excluded, so it's not available. I got it through the OIA, showing the risks are current now.
Order. Leave is sought to table that particular memorandum. Is there any objection? There is none. It can be tabled.
Supplementary
question, the Honourable Annette King.
Is he aware mental health patients presenting to emergency departments have increased by nearly 30% between June 2011 and December 2015, while at the same time DHBs are reporting blowouts in their mental health budgets?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Well, look, there's no doubt there has been an increase in demand. I mean, there's a full range of factors that explains that. One of the reasons around increased presentations at EDs is that the police are now taking those patients directly there, as I understand it, rather than being assessed out into the community. At the same time, as the member will know, there was an extra $568 million went into the health budget this year. There's a mental health ring fence, and on top of that, DHBs have the discretion to direct part of that money on top of the ring fence into mental health services. So I'm confident that while it's a tough area to work in, we actually have a very good mental health service.
Supplementary question, Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How is mental health demand increasing, and how is the government providing better access for these services?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Mr. Speaker, demand for mental health services has increased from 2.3% of the population a decade ago to 3.5% of the population in the last year. So that's a huge increase from 96,000 people to 164,000 people accessing specialist services each year. But that is consistent with international trends. Despite that steady increase in demand, more Kiwis are being seen sooner by mental health services. For example, back in 2011, only 60% of young people seeking mental health help for the first time were seen within 3 weeks. By 2015, that had risen to 70%, so from 60 to 70% being seen within 3 weeks. So the system is improving, but there is more work to be done. Officials also advised me that district health boards have in place crisis response teams that will respond to psychological emergencies within a target 24 hours.
This is a supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Does the government allocated funding for mental health and addiction services to DHBs fully fund their ring-fence mental health expenditure?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Coleman.
Yes.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Annette King.
Is Canterbury DHB a beacon of his success in adequate funding for mental health when they revealed a $23 million shortfall in mental health funding this year and are now forecasting a $37 million deficit by the end of the year, with one of the main reasons being a demand in mental health services?
The Honourable Dr
Well, Mr.
Jonathan
Speaker, I
Conroy.
don't accept the member in her interpretation of those figures. I mean, the Canterbury DHB budget went up $44 million this year. The population statistics that we use are those that are provided by Statistics New Zealand. So funding in Canterbury for health has gone up. There's a ring fence, and Canterbury DHB has the discretion to spend extra money on mental health. On top of that, in February, the government put in an extra $20 million for mental health services. They consulted the sector, and that was widely accepted. And so people are not missing out on mental health services in Canterbury.
Point of order, Mr.
Point
Speaker.
of order, the Honourable
I
Annette
seek
King.
leave to table a letter from the Canterbury District Health Board under the Official Information Act showing the $23 million shortfall this year in mental health funding, and that's dated the 24th of June.
Is there another document?
And the second document I seek is the board minutes from the Canterbury District Health Board dated the 15th of September showing a predicted $37 million deficit for this year.
Order. Can I just clarify with the second document? Is it, in both cases, the response to the OIA? I will therefore put the leave for both the letter from the Canterbury DHB and then the board minutes of the board meeting of the Canterbury DHB. Is there any objection to those two documents being tabled? There is not. They can be tabled.
Supplementary question,
Supplementary
Mr. Speaker.
question, the Honourable Annette King.
Does he still think there is no need for an inquiry into mental health in New Zealand in light of the recent reviews into Waitemata, Waikato and Capital Coast District Health Services, mental health services, and Northland, Mid-Central and Nelson Marlborough carrying out their own reviews around patient and workforce safety?
The Honourable Dr Jonathan Conroy.
No, I don't accept that there's a need for further inquiry. It's always a difficult area. The government has increased funding, and as I said, more New Zealanders are receiving more services more quickly than previously.
Order. Question.